And hello, welcome to Solo Playthroughs. We have another episode of Jagged Earth Spirit Island, and we are coming to the finish line. We got Lore, and we have Shroud, and we have Volcano, and we have something stuck on my table. There we go, got that off. All right, here we go. So a couple of new bells and whistles, I guess. I did sleeve up my invader cards. They were showing their age a little bit too much. Started feeling it in the corners, so just felt like I would give that extra layer of protection. It is generally how I roll. I don't sleeve until I feel like I probably should now finally sleeve. I think we are eventually getting there with the event deck and the fear cards as well, but that's fine. We will overcome that hurdle when it is time. Other thing is, man, I'll tell you what. I used to think Mage Knight was the game that it was like the holy grail that you always sought for and never got, was like the perfect game where you made no mistakes. And I'm starting to realize that it might actually be Spirit Island. That every time I go to edit, I'm like, this is the one. I think I nailed it. I'm like, oh, shoot. I do feel a lot better when I make a mistake to my detriment. Unfortunately, I think the last two videos I have made a mistake to my advantage at a key moment. So hopefully we will not fall into that trap here tonight, and we will just go from there. But again, like, mistakes come with the turf with this game. I kind of have constantly remind myself not to stress it too much. I mean, it's sometimes they help you, sometimes they hurt you, sometimes a mistake that you think in theory should help you actually doesn't help you all that much, and sometimes a mistake that you think should hurt you is actually, good for you. So like, there's these complex games have that kind of built in. Just do the best you can, and that's also one of the reasons I try to use the reminder tokens as effectively as possible and throw them all over my table while I'm talking right now, to make sure that I am minimizing the risk that I'm just going to miss something here or there. Let's get to lore, man. Story time with Greg. Let's just jump into that. Most early Dahan settlements clustered around the coasts. From time to time, a handful of residents would get a distant look in their eyes and stride off into the heart of the island, no pleading or reason dissuading them from seeking some distant call only they could hear. Many of these involuntary wanderers survived and settled together in time. This may have hastened the first reckoning, as they relied much more on agriculture than did their fishing brethren along the coast. A few wanderers spoke, and voices of wonder mingled with fear of finding the spirit that called them ever further inward. But most never even saw it, only felt its distant beckoning. Man, this spirit is so freaking cool. I love the way it looks. I love the way it interacts with the board. I love the way that I feel like it was designed as for the sole reason to give the players something that they feel like they can play against Russia and say, F you, Russia. I mean, this spirit is so cool. It's very strong. Again, it's strong against everybody. It's really nice against Russia because it just matches up so well against Russia. Again, I'm still avoiding Russia for this playthrough because, as I said the last couple of playthroughs, I don't think it's the best way to give you a sense of what these spirits really do. With Lore's case, though, it might actually highlight what he really does. But again, I'm just going to stick with that. Keep Russia off for these final remaining playthroughs, and maybe in the future I will do a level 5 or level 6 Russia with Lore just for the fun of it, because it's a lot of fun. His setup is all inland. I mean, people say, you've probably read by now if you looked in his game or thought it yourself if you played his game, he is the counterpart to Ocean. In many ways he is stronger than Ocean, and that's saying a ton. So it's just really cool to see, to play with him and to see how he works. The complexity is a little bit much because he uses so many damn tokens. I mean, look at the uses. I mean, he uses Badlands, he uses Beast, he uses Disease, he uses Wilds. There's that component, but if you get the tokens down, Moderate makes a lot of sense. His summary of powers: offense, control, fear, yes please. Defense, against Russia, it's off the chain. Against the other spirits, it's solid, not great. Just like with Ocean, you really want to find something that gives you range with a defense. That's a big part of Lore. You need something that gives you range with a defense. on the coast. That the really cool thing, or the thing that makes it a little bit easier with ocean, you're often needing something that gives you range 2, but with lures, you know, you can range 1 cards are sufficient and will work. So it really opens up what's available to you from the minor and major power card deck. And because of that, with ocean, I'm normally playing a game where I want a couple of major powers to really break the game open. With lore, I find myself playing almost invariably playing a minor power strategy where I'm going for card plays, I'm going for elements, I'm going for minor powers that just stack well together and give me the ability to do a whole bunch of crazy things. All right, so again, very focused on the interior. He basically turns things into explorers and they then just disappear. Right, so the cities disband and all the people living there go into the deep wild where they come face to face with this crazy toad frog thing with a lighting with a light bulb sticking out of its head. I mean, it's so cool. All right, enough gushing for today. Yep, the rest of that is pretty obvious. So what are his special rules? Special rules that is home of the island's heart. Your spirits may only be added or moved to lands that are inland. Again, there is that major power that allows you to ignore that, as it does. Ocean can go inland. I forget what the name of it is, but that is, generally speaking, his presence will only be in the inland lands. So the 6 land or the 5 lands on the starting board in a true solo game. That's it. That's your home. Enthrall the foreign invader. Explorers is the other special rule. For each presence in a land, you get to ignore up to 2 explorers during the ravage step and ravage actions. And that was a rule that I just wasn't really paying attention to until I played against Russia. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the spirit it felt like a cheat code against Russia. I mean, it's so insane. I mean, it doesn't say reduce their damage by 1. No, it's ignore. You just ignore. Now, if you have Dahan there, when you ignore them for the ravage action, it's like saying when they don't participate in the ravage action, right? So you can't ignore them for when they're doing damage and then have the Dahan like wipe them out during the Dahan fight back part of a ravage action. So if you ignore them, you ignore them. Often you will choose not to ignore them, and it should say may. I don't know why. I think they made the same mistake here as they made with green in one of the editions. It should say you may. You don't have to. You may ignore up to 2 explorers during the ravage step. If you want to deal with them, you have the Dahan there, by all means, and you have a defense and whatever sort, or you have a strife there or whatever. You can let them attack, and then you can have the Dahan fight back and wipe those suckers out. All right. Growth is really interesting. It's basically 2 binary choices. It's a pick 2 kind of, but it's like pick one of A or B and pick one of A or B. The energy generation is really nice. It really goes well with a multi-card play or a multi-card strategy. So the first binary choice is reclaim cards and 1 energy, or add a presence into an inland land within 4 of where you already have presence. The other binary choice is gain a moon, a sky, or a plant tag, and you would have to do that in your growth phase. So it's not like an any element where you could do it at any point. This has to be done when you're doing your growth phase. You pick what you want, and you gain 2 energy, or you gain a power card, right? So I will be doing one of 2 things as I start this. I always, my first turn, will do add a presence, and then I will do the gain 2 energy. All right, there's a combination that I really like that works for me and how I approach lore. After that, I'll either do that again, or I will actually do 2 turns in a row where I gain a power card and then try to get 6 cards in my hand before I reclaim cards. So we'll see where we're at in game state. We did this before I decide which one of those 2 ways that I want to go. Presence track, the energy track is pretty nice. A lot of things going on. You have 1 energy that you start with, and it's 2 energy, moon element, 3 energy, and a plant element, 4 energy, and a sky element, and then 5 energy and a reclaim 1. Most of the games that I've played with lore have not even come close to going that long. So we might get to the 3 and a plant. I don't think I've ever got to 4 and an heir. And then on the card play track, you have 1 card play, 2 card plays, animal tag, 3 card plays, 4 card plays, and then 5 card plays and reclaim 1. As far as where the presence goes on the board, 2 presence will start in land number 8 with a beast, and 1 presence will start in land number 7. All right, innate powers. Forsake society to chase after dreams. Slow power. Range 1. Target land invaders. After this power replaces pieces with explorers, you can gather any number of those explorers into your lands. If target land has any cities or towns remaining, get a fear. So a lot of these powers are remembering to get that little, bonus fear here and there with the innate powers is a big part of learning to win with lore. It's just remembering the benefits that are there. There are so many of them when you start to play, and they really start to accumulate and to add up. So you can spend 2 moons and replace an explorer with an explorer. Well, that sounds weird. What's that all about? Well, once you replace it again, then you can gather it. You have 2 moons and a sky. You can instead replace 1 town with 2 explorers. When you have 3 moons, 2 sky, and a animal, instead you can replace 1 city with 3 explorers. And that's easier to unlock than you might think. And then the last one, if you have 4 sky, you get to repeat the power and do it twice. Never heard from again is the other innate power. It is a slow power, range 0, so you have to have presence there. Target land is inland. If this power destroys any explorers, 1 fear. If this power destroys 5 or more explorers, plus 1 fear. If you have a fire and 3 plants, you can add a badlands. If you have 2 plants, you can destroy up to 2 explorers per badlands, beast, disease, and wilds. That's nuts, and you will be able to accumulate a ton of those tokens. It is crazy, right? It's like you're getting all the badlands of stone and all the beasts of fangs, and throwing a couple of wilds on there as if you got like keeper. I mean, it's so nuts what this spirit does. All right, I hope I'm not building this up too much, man. I feel like I'm just gonna run into the most boring playthrough ever, or just get destroyed. Either of which is still possible with this game. All right, if the 3rd level of this, again, these are cumulative, so you would choose your target land, and you could do these one after another as long as you have all of those elements, right? So if I get 4 plants and an animal, I can do 2 damage in that land, and if I get 6 plants, I get to repeat the power. Crazy. All right, let's pick our board. So I have A through F over here. I'm going to roll a die. I rolled a 3. Let us go to board C. There we go. I realized somebody pointed out in the comments, which I really appreciate, that I guess I forgot to put a Dahan on at the setup of the last playthrough, which is crazy because I feel like Dahan are so instrumental to what Grinning Trickster does. But it is what it is. Sometimes we forget silly things. So here, I'm going to my 6 Dahan first. They're all there. I'm not forgetting. All right, now we're going to put just the base setup, and then we'll figure out our adversary. Adversaries, let's talk about that. So again, I'm not doing Russia in these last 6 playthroughs. I've already played against Scotland, and I've already played against England. So we have the other 4 adversaries left. And I will tell you what, I was impressed. Lore holds up fairly well against Scotland. Now, I only played once. It was level 4, and I picked up a couple of nice defense cards early, so that really helped. But I was able to make pretty decent work of Scotland in a way that, this spirit has some, it's cool. So unfortunately, we won't be doing that today, but maybe another time we can take a look at that matchup in the future. But let me roll a die with the 4 remaining adversaries, and number 1 will be Sweden, number 2 will be Habsburg, number 3 will be France, and number 4 will be Prussia. I know that's super random. I rolled a 2. It is a 2, I promise, you stupid little pyramid dice. So 2 is Habsburg. So yeah, Habsburg it is. Let me get the Habsburg card. The livestock colony, and let's do it. They are gonna be hard, but I think it will be a good challenge. We'll see. So yeah, I've done 2 playthroughs against Habsburg already, both on level 3. The first one was with Stone, the second one was with Starlight. So I do recommend checking those playthroughs out. So I will go to level 4 with lore of the deep wilderness, and level 4 is a significant increase in difficulty. Usually the difficulty jumps
on these adversary cards only go up by 1. When you go from level 3 to level 4, it does jump from a level 6 difficulty to a level 8 difficulty, and that seems maybe understated. This is a very interesting challenge, and it definitely thrashed some of the spirits that I'm the most comfortable with. I remember the first time I played Habsburg on level 4 with Thunder Speaker and just got thoroughly trounced in some pretty significant ways. So again, if you want to see, I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking through the first few levels of Habsburg. We'll kind of see how he plays out. His escalation is this, like, there's this give and take. If you have a lot of blight on the board, it actually makes life easier, but obviously if you have a lot of blight on the board, you're also going to be really dependent on having a blighted island card that is not awful. So there's going to be some things that we're going to have to deal with there. But again, the new mechanic introduced by the level 4 version of Habsburg is the durable mechanic. So wherever there's a town on a land without blight, the towns are durable and they have 4 health. So if you have a destroy a town action, that action, instead of destroying that town, only does that town 2 damage. Now if you have a destroy 2 town action, I'm going to move this aside so I can start shuffling some things up. If you have a destroy 2 town action, you could actually treat that as saying 4 damage to towns only, right? So you could then use that destroy 2 towns to destroy one of those towns. If you have a destroy all towns action, that will still act as normal. There are not many of those cards in play. I don't think I've ever been lucky enough to get a destroy all towns major power. I don't even know if there's any minor powers that do that. I think it's all major powers, obviously. That if you have the one of those destroy all major all towns major power, that would act like normal. All right, so it's gonna be this is gonna be an interesting challenge. Now with Lore, the good thing is that he does have some early powers that allow you to move some towns around, and we are probably going to want to take maximum advantage of that wetlands in the middle and the starting blight on the board, so we can potentially start clearing out some things right off the bat. All right, so the fear level, the fear cards are, it's pretty substantial. I mean, there are going to be 12 fear cards total, and it's going to be 4, 5, 3. So there's a lot of fear cards between Terror level 2 and Terror level 3. However, because Habsburg doesn't build any cities inland, it has less cities than the average adversary. So generally speaking, if you can get past these 5 cards, you'll probably auto trigger a Terror level 3 victory as soon as you get to Terror level 3. Now, that's also easier said than done. So we have these little reminder tokens. I'll put them out. Again, the art on this one's a little funky. I put this here. So after the build, there's a thing we need to do. This will go here. This will go here. The one that I put for the Ravage, again, it says level 6, but it's also there a reminder of the additional loss condition. And what's the additional loss condition? Is you have to track how many blight come off the card when 8 damage is done to the land. If that ever exceeds the number of players, the invaders win. Now, that sounds like, oh, whatever, so you just can't have that blight happen twice. No, actually, if you ever have 8 damage to the land that cause a blight and a cascade, that is 2 blight coming off the card in a Ravage that does 8 damage. So you really can never allow a Ravage of a land that already has blight to be doing 8 or more damage to the land, or you will auto lose as a true solo player. And that's not good. No one likes to auto lose, so I hear. So the invader deck is pretty normal. We have our 5 level 3 cards. We're going to have our 4 level 2 cards. I rolled a 5 there, and then there is a little bit of a dash of Prussia in Habsburg's makeup. So we're actually going to take out 2 of the stage 1 cards. All right, our initial explore is going to be into mountains, which is far from ideal. So I want to take advantage of that blight there. It's going to be hard to do dealing with this guy over here, but I still think this is the right play and get to myself to a place where I can start wiping out some towns quicker. That's a really bad draw. Okay, that's fine. We'll figure it out. And also because of Habsburg, there's one additional town there. We have the disease, and we have a beast, and there's going to be an explorer here because the initial explorer. All right, I need to shuffle up the major powers and minor powers, and then we'll talk through the unique powers of lore. Yeah, I'm not loving that initial invader card. That puts me in a little bit of a spot. That could go there, and again, there are the games where you can get an early defend card with lore. It does make it kind of like a cheat code of sorts, but you can never really count on that, especially with all of the Jagged Earth cards in here. I feel like the Jagged Earth cards really watered down the number of defends that you would find in the minor power deck, so that it's not, you could go 12, 16 cards deep before you actually see a minor power that has a defend, because you just have so many more cards in there now. So that's the thing. I could be statistically wrong about that, and maybe it's just been a small sample size. All right, so I'll put these here. I use the blue tokens to help me remember which of the binary choices that I made here, and then we'll have these little extra elements over here just to kind of track when I take that growth option which element that I've added. The unique powers, there are 4 of them. They range in cost from 0 to 2. The one that costs 0 is Gift of the Untamed Wild. It is a slow power. It has a moon, a fire, a sky, and a plant. It targets any other spirit, or any spirit, so obviously we would be targeting ourselves, and we could choose to do one of 2 things. We could either add a wilds to one of our lands, or we replace one of our presence with a disease. So can be pretty effective. We have Perils of the Deepest Island. It is a slow power. It has a moon, a plant, and an animal tag. Range 0, target inland. You can generate a fear, add a badlands, add a beast within range 1, but then going back to the target land, you can push up to 2 Dahan. Swallowed by the Wilderness is a fast power. It has a fire, it has a sky, it has a plant and an animal. It does 2 fear, 1 damage per beast, disease, wilds, and badlands. Now, interesting thing about this card is this count max 5 tokens. And it's interesting that it says tokens and not damage, because again, if you have 5 tokens there, you can do 5 damage, and then you can do 1 additional damage for each Badlands just based on the Badlands mechanics. So that's a fast power where you could do chunk damage in some really cool ways if you can gather the tokens in a couple of your inland lands and then have that available to you. It can be really good. And then finally we have Softly Beckon Ever Inward. It costs 2. It is a slow power. It has a moon and a sky element, and it is target land is inland, range 0, gather up to 2 explorers, gather up to 2 towns, gather up to 2 beasts, gather up to 2 Dahan, and they'll all be one giant big happy family. I never did the Healthy Island card, so again I'm going to roll a d20 here. I rolled 15. There are 16 cards, so 16, 15, ding, 2 blight on there. And now I need to figure out how I'm gonna. I really hate that card. That's a bad card. That's just any other land type, I have a pretty obvious path at this point. Oh man, because what I really wanted, if I wanted to start drawing towns into there, I mean, I guess I just hope I pull a minor power next turn that has some defend. I really don't know how else I could play this. All right, let's do it. So my first growth options, I'm going to choose the choice of placing a presence. I'm going to place a presence. Oh, my bad. Starting presence. I have 2 presence and a beast in land 8, and then a presence in land 7. So my starting presence, I'm going to put in land 5. Yeah, that's fun. And then I'm going to do that growth option I'm going to take a plant and I'm going to get 2 energy. And then I get 2 energy. I get 1 energy because of the presence track. I have 2 card plays. The 2 cards I'm going to play is one's going to be Softly Beckon Ever Inward. The other one is going to be Perils of the Deepest Island. If we can track my elements, that gives me 2 moons. That gives me 1 sky, and it's going to be 1 plant from that card, and then I took a plant again as part of my growth option, so that's 2 plants there. Man, this is... I'm really upset about that card. It's okay. I will overcome. We're going to then... I have no fast powers, so let me put my reminder tokens here. I have no fast powers, so again, Jagged Earth rules. The first event card you flip over, do not do anything on that card. And now the actions. So Hasburg is going to build here, and it's going to build 2 towns in land 7. Right? It doesn't ever build cities, it just builds 2 towns. And then after the build step, we gather from a land that is not matching the build card. And obviously there is nothing to gather into... Oh wait, there should be 1 more. Yeah, there should be another town in land 8. I felt like I was forgetting something there. So yeah, and then so that will gather there. So when you do set up, there's an extra land in land 2, an extra town in land 2, and then there's an extra town in the highest number land that doesn't have a pre-printed setup icon. So there's no setup symbols in 8, despite the fact that I have a beast and 2 presents in there. So there would have been a town there. So I was like, I knew there should have been 4 towns in 7 after that build. So sorry for forgetting that, but we caught it. No mistakes yet. yet seems to be the operative word lately. And now I'm going to explore into sands. We get 1 explorer into land 2 and 1 explorer into land 6. We are going to be doing level stage 2 invader cards the very next turn. So this is going to get serious quick, kids. Well, let me try to work this out. I am going to do forsake society to chase after dreams. I'm going to replace a town with 2 explorers, and now I can gather those explorers into a land, any one of my lands. So any of my lands, I can gather them into any of my lands. So I can gather 1 here and 1 there. I can really do whatever I want. I want to gather both of them into land 5. Now, I'm going to use Softly Beckon Ever Inward. I can gather 2 towns. So I'm going to gather 2 towns from land 7 into land 5. So my target land is 5. I'm going to gather an explorer from land 6, and I'm going to gather an explorer from land 7. There's no point messing with 5 right now. No, that's fine. I'll gather an explorer from land 5. All right. So I gathered the 2 explorers, and I did this little order. I did the towns first. Sorry about that. So I gathered 2 explorers, gather 2 towns. I can gather up to 2 beasts. I gather this beast, and I can gather up to 2 Dahan. I will... Do I want to gather any Dahan? Sure, I'll gather these 2 Dahan here. Yeah, I think that makes some sense. All right. So that I've done Softly Beckon Ever Inward. Now, Perils of the Deepest Island. My target land is going to be land 5. I'm going to generate a fear off the top. I'm going to add a Badlands. I'm going to add a beast within range 1. I'm going to add that beast right there. And then I'm going to push 2 Dahan. I'm going to push them into 7. And maybe during the Ravage next turn, 1 will die and the other one will survive and retaliate. All right, so that's done. Now I'm doing Never Heard From Again. I'm destroying up to 2 explorers per Badlands, Beast, Disease, or Wilds. I have 3 of those tokens, so I can destroy up to... No, notice, Badlands isn't triggering because this isn't a damage amount. I'm just destroying the invader. So I can destroy up to 6 explorers. I have 4 here. So I'm going to destroy all 4 of those. And then because the power destroyed an explorer, it destroyed at least 1 of them, I get to generate a fear. If I had destroyed 1 more explorer, I would generate a second fear. So, and we'll see. We'll see what I can pull. I'm gonna need a minor power with the defense. That'll really help open this game up for lore. And if it doesn't work out, we'll have to kind of see what's gonna go on next. Because yeah, losing 3 Dahan off the bat isn't ideal, but again, lore doesn't rely on Dahan too much, so they can be helpful when they work out, but it just might not work out for us. So that's fine. So we're going to do growth. Time passes, and then we're going to go to growth. So I am going to get a power card, so I'm going to take this option here, and let's see what we get. Please give me a defend. Here there be monsters. You may push 1 explorer, town, or Dahan. Generate 2 fear. Target land 0 inland. Obviously, I have so many inland powers. This probably isn't going to make some sense. If make any sense, and if the target land has a beast, you can generate 1 fear. Now, this does seem like a lore special because it has his elements, but again, really just kind of redundant with what I already have. Teeming rivers, slow power. Target land is 2 away from where you have a sacred place. Target land can be mountains or wetlands. If target land has no blight, add 1 beast. If target land has exactly 1 blight, remove it. I might use that just to remove the blight that's invariably going to be caused there. Give me a defend, Prowling Panthers. Slow power. So it has a moon, which I like. It is a slow power, range 1. Target land is mountains or jungles. Generate a fear and add a beast. Or if target land has a beast, destroy 1 explorer or town. Now remember, if it is a unblighted land, destroy an explorer or a town would be basically 2 damage to a durable town. If there's blight there, you could actually destroy that town. And then finally we have drift down at the slumber. Ugh, not great. Drift down at the slumber. Fast power, range 2, defend 1 if the target land is a jungle or sands. Obviously, we're worried about mountains right now. I could defend 4. So these are not the things of dreams. That is for sure. Oh, that's interesting. So one of the things I'm thinking about, if I go wipe out these towns, and then that gets wiped out during Ravage, then I could actually prevent any towns from going into 6. Which would be interesting. And that if I blight, it could be worse. One of the benefits of that is that we'll have 3 blight on the board. So if there's an escalator for the stage 2 invader cards, we only add 1 town. So drift out of the slumber could be useful next turn for sure. But because that will be doing. This is not, it's going to have a town in there. So I'll be doing 5. I could prevent a blight maybe, but that doesn't help me this turn. All right, that's fine. I'm not going to be able to get the 2 moons, which is unfortunate because I'm not going to be able to use forsake society to chase after dreams. So I will take, do I use both of these? Do I use both of those and just hold on to drift down to the slumber next turn? But then I'm not going to have, then I'm really not going to have the moon. Ugh. Well, I could add, it'd be unusual. I really like into the 3 card plays, but it might make more sense to do these 2, get to that moon, and then I could worry about getting to that 3rd card play, which would be a little bit backwards of how I've been playing this. But I think based on my current situation, that might make some more sense. And then I could gather some more energy. All right, let me take drift down to the slumber because I'm going to want it next turn. And then when I add a presence, I will add it from the top track, which is not how I'm usually playing this spirit. But if you're not unlocking forsake society to chase after dreams, like you're really not maximizing lore's strengths. So this presence. So I'm going to do the other growth option. I'm going to use that binary option by adding a presence on an inland land. And I'll add this presence. I'll make myself a sacred place in, I'll make a sacred place in 5. I'd rather make a sacred place early and then regret it later. And I already got the 2 energy from the presence track. All right, so I'm going to pay for Swallowed by the Wilderness, and we have paid for Gift of the Untamed Wild, which is 0, so it's very expensive. So I'm going to take a look at my elements. I have 1 moon, I have 2 sky, and I have 2 plant, and then let me get another die over here. I have 1 animal. So the only thing I've unlocked is going to be this skill down here. All right, so I have 1 fast power, and that is going to be 2 fear off the top, which is it's going to be a fear card. And then I can target a land where I have presence, and I can do 1 damage per token, and then the Badlands give me another damage. And remember, these towns are not durable because we have a blight there, so I can generate 4 damage, and I can knock off both of these towns. That generates 2 fear. So if I don't get unlucky with 7, and if I don't get unlucky with an event card, if there's no added damage to this is going to do 3 damage and add a blight. The Dahan will fight back, and the fight back, they'll be able to knock off this town, and that would basically prevent anything from getting into land 6, which would really help allow me to really hyper focus on the coastal lands, because they're gonna be a problem. So let's see, it's a little bit gambly, but again, you kind of forced into this situation against Hasburg a lot at the higher levels. So we are going to go to, there's no Blight Island effect. We're going to go to the event card. Don't do it to me. All right, I think we're good. The struggles of growth, a painful crux point. Each spirit chooses to trade reach for deeper nature. Destroy 2 of your presence, gain a power card. Yikes. Or I can forget a power card, gain 2 energy, and move up to 2 of your presence. And move 2 of your presence up to 4 away. Then my normal rules of where I can put presence was presence, not presidents or presence. Presence will still apply. So, oh man, I'm tempted to gain a power card. I think digging for a power card makes the most sense, because then I could potentially unlock some elements there and not have, and when my next growth option. Fine. I'm going to destroy those 2 presents. So I'll be down to just a sacred place in the middle of the board. Why not? Be fun. And I'm going to, so I did trade reach for a deeper nature, and I get to gain a power card. I will gain a minor. Quicken your struggles is 1 damage to each city or town, and then, or defend 10, but you have to have a sacred place. Again, not all that helpful. I need something with range that gets me to the coast, right? Pull beneath the hungry earth is a slow power. If target land has your presence, 1 fear and 1 damage. If target land is a sands or a wetlands, 1 damage. Not awful. It does have a moon, so I like that. We have portents of disaster, 2 fear the next time an invader is destroyed in target land, plus 1 fear. Not loving that. And then territorial strife. I can. I have to target land with the city. There's not many cities with Hasburg, so this was a kind of a garbage draw. But again, like, only one of these is Jagged Earth, but you could see like there is like this nature where the minor powers do feel like more like minor powers, where you're like, they're not always what you want, but it does make an interesting puzzle. So none of this is great. Target land has your presence. I don't have presence a lot of places. But this could really stack well with the Badlands. 2 fear. Next time invader destroyed in target land, 1 fear. I don't really want to be chasing fear right now. I need to find a way to do damage, especially against Hasburg. So I will take pull beneath the hungry earth. I like the fact that it has a moon. We will see. Well, I'm going to get the moon from there. I do that. All right, that should work well next turn with my growth options. All right, so I did that. Now the rest of the event card. So the token event is irregular outbreaks. Ignore disease during builds this invader phase. That's not good. So that's going to be up to 7. So that means that my defend 4 there is going to be ineffective. Man, the events, I swear, I go through cycles where the event cards are just like punch you in the face bad. But that's fine. Ooh, that's great. So, oh no, it's not. Well, that's fine. Yeah, this will, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. The math's going to get funny, and then it might actually counteract. You don't even know what I'm talking about. So careful defense. When invaders ravage, if the land has Dahan, defend 2. So I do get the fear from irregular outbreaks. Careful defense when invaders ravage, if the land has Dahan, defend 2. So I'm defending 2 here. Yeah, I don't know if this is good or bad. There's going to be a give and a take to this, and you'll see that in a second. So I'm defending 2 there as well. All right, so fear card. What do we got? Each player may replace one town with 2 explorers. 1 fear per player who does. Okay, I will replace this town. All right, that's actually a lot better, because there won't be a town to join up with our friends in land 2, which is good, and I get a fear for that. It says I generate another fear. I do resolve that immediately. Each town destroys 1 explorer in its land, so this explorer is dead, and this explorer is dead. Scapegoats is the name. So the first one was angry mobs, the fear card. The second fear card was scapegoats. So let's carry out these actions. So we're ravaging in land 3. It's ravaging 4. I'm defended 2. That does add a blight, and it destroys a Dahan. By adding a blight, we've now triggered the loss of the durable mechanic. The Dahan will fight back. They can do 2 damage. The surviving Dahan will do 2 damage, and it will destroy that town, because that town is no longer durable. And it's interesting too, like if you say you had done 2 damage, say that never wasn't added during strife or for ravage, or say I had that and I was defended for, I could do 2 damage to that, and if I moved the strife into there, immediately it would die because the durable mechanic goes away. So it's actually a really there's a lot of it animates some, like the power cards that allow you to push around strife do gain some value against Habsburg in some pretty cool ways. All right, we're ravaging in land 2. I'm sorry, not 2, 7. We just ravaged in 3. I don't know why I said 2. So we're ravaging in land 7. The Dahan are ravaging 2. I'm defended 2, so the Dahan are fine. The Dahan retaliate 4. That retaliation, the fight back of 4, is enough to kill that town, even with the durable mechanic there. So that generates a fear. So this board's looking way better than I thought it would. And now we're going to go to the build step. So we're building in land 2. Now remember, we're ignoring disease during build this invader phase. So that gets a town. And there's nothing to build in land 6. After the build step, we gather a town from a land that doesn't match the land type. There's no towns anywhere but in land 2, which is crazy. Wow, this board, like what happened to this board? It's crazy. Cool. So that's done. Where are we exploring? Well, we need to explore into mountains. There is no source for land 7 anymore, so we got to explore here. Now we only have 2 blight on the board, so we have to add 2 towns in 2 places. Oh, that we have to add 1 town each in 2 different lands that do not have towns or blight. So obviously, ooh, if I add it here, it builds. I will add 1 in land. There's blight in 5, so that doesn't work. So the way this works is if there's 4 or less blight, you have to add 1 town. And if there's 2 or less blight, you have to add a second. I'm probably going Blighted Island next turn. I might reclaim my cards, actually, which does totally throw off what I thought I was doing here. Nah, I won't, I guess. Man, so you're basically you're just guaranteed you're adding towns to lands that don't have lands that will be like that will trigger the durable. And I just don't want it out of the 7 because it obviously would be building a lot. All right, I'll add it to 8, and that's fine. Maybe we'll get lucky with an event card. I can't add it to 6. It's going to ravage. So, and I don't add it to 7 because it's going to build 2 towns because of Habsburg. So yeah, the escalation can be pretty vicious. All right, now what are we doing? I'm going to, man, I might reclaim cards just to get softly backing inward back in my hand. I think I do that. I still don't have a good defend card for 3, and that's going to be ravaging 7 in 2 turns, and then we could ravage and cascade. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put that guy. I think I just leave him in 8, which isn't ideal, but it will do. All right, so the invader cards have advanced, and now I have my slow powers. So this, never heard from again, is probably going to be useless. Interesting. Then it's going to gather one in there anyway. That's yeah, that's fine. I think I have to get softly back in my hand. So I can add a wilds to one of my lands. I'll just add a wilds to 7. All right, so that's fine. Time passes. Again, it never heard from again is not going to be effective because I have no explorers in lands where I have presence. So these 2 cards don't excite me. I might end up playing Drift Out of the Slumber anyway. I probably will actually try to prevent a blight there. But ultimately, I need to get this cycle of cards back in my hand. So I'm reclaiming cards and getting an energy from that. I am going to get 2 energy from the presence track. And my card plays are going to be this and this. So am I going to want an element? Yes. I'm going to want, that's fine. I'm going to do this. I get 2 more energy. The other options are obviously getting a power card, which I don't think is going to make much sense. So I'm going to do that. Because my original plan was I was going to take this off and get this moon this round. But I think I really need to reclaim cards. I think getting softly back end ever inward is in back of my hand is more important than what else I was thinking. So now I got to figure out what element I want. I do want... Yeah, let me give myself the ability to melt a town here. So I'm going to take a moon. So my elements, I have 2 moons. I have 2 sky. I only have 1 plant. As you saw, though, again, I've already taken care of so many explorers inland that you never heard from again. Is going to take a little bit before I can really recharge that to be useful. So Drift Down to the Slumber, I'm going to defend 4 in this stance. Again, 2 away from where I have presence. This is obviously adjacent, so we have a nice defend 4 in land 2. So that will be good. And now we can pull our event card. And what is it? Stage 2. So stage 1 or 2, we're in stage 2. After the Ravage step, if no blight was added to this board, add a town to the highest number of land with no invaders. Well, that's great. So I'm going to put a reminder token there. I'm going to put a reminder token here. In each land with beast, 1 damage per beast. That's unfortunate. And then on each board, add a Dahan to a land with 2 or more Dahan. I will add a Dahan here, coming of age. So that will go here. Now we're going to ravage. We're ravaging 5, so we're doing the invader steps. Ravaging 5 in land 2 and defended 4, so no harm, no foul there. We're building in mountains, so Hasbro gets a town in 3, nothing to build in 7. After the build step, we now have to gather a town from an adjacent land. Or gather a town. Oh, sorry. So after the Ravage step, we had to add a town to the highest number of land with no invaders. I did not add any blight. So that's going to be 7. Shoot. So it will build there. And since it builds there, it would build a city. It actually builds 2 towns. So that was really bad. I didn't even realize how bad that was at the moment. And now, wow, this is bananas. Hasbro's tough, man. They're really, really tough. Okay, and then after they build step, we have to gather towns. It doesn't make any sense to gather towns from inland lands to non-inland lands, so I'm going to gather this town from 2 to 3, and then I need to gather, so I did this. That's why I use these reminder tokens. There's no way I would remember that without that. And now I have to gather another town. I will gather this town from 8 to 7. Explore wetlands. We're going to get a Explorer into 5, an Explorer into 8, And then the escalator, I only have 2 blight, so I have to add 2 more towns. I will add a town. They can't have towns or blight. I will add a town into 6 and a town into 8. I really just don't want to put them on the coastal land for any purpose whatsoever. And that is fine. Invader cards will advance. You saw that board looks so clean for like a second. You get a couple bad events, and all of a sudden I just added 17 towns. Wow. Let's see how this is going to work. So softly beckon ever inward. I can gather. Man, I wish I had a defend 4 that wasn't on a mountain, because that's not doing me any favors. All right, I can gather two explorers. There are no explorers to gather, and to gather 2. Unless I gather everything into 7, because it's clearly going to go to crap anyway. But again, if I do 7 damage to the land, if I do 8 damage to the land, I have to count that toward my loss condition, which is super bad. And now I have to worry about this thing down here too, because that's about to ravage 7. I'm sorry, ravage 7, and that's going to blight and cascade. So we're almost guaranteed going to Blight Island next turn. I do have Forsake Society to chase after dreams. So I'm going to turn one of these towns into 2 explorers, and then I'm going to gather them into land 5. And then I'm going to gather 2 more towns. Yeah, I'm going to gather 1 from land 7 and 1 from land 6. I can gather beast. I have none. I can gather more Dahan. I want to keep these Dahan there, because if they ravage 4, I mean, I'm also thinking about the escalator. I want to keep some of these lands open, because I do not want to. I don't want to have to add any towns to the coast. I think that's fine. I could try to min-max this more, but I don't think it's worth it. So the slow powers are done. We now go to the time passes. We now go back to growth. I'm going to try to wipe out a bunch of stuff there. I wish I put that wilds there before that 1 extra damage to make a big difference. Let me gain. Oh man, it's a mess. All right, I'm going to definitely add a presence, and let me unlock that moon like I intended to a while ago. And then I'll have to. I really want to get to that 3rd card play super soon. I don't know if it makes sense for me to gain a power card right now. So pull beneath the Jagged Earth is interesting, because it's like if target land has your presence, 1 fear and 1 damage. So if there's a bad land, there'd be a 2nd damage. If target land is of sands or water, sands or wetlands, 1 damage. Now the bad lands want to trigger twice on the same action. So it's again the first time the invaders take damage during an action that's triggered. The real question I have for myself, I do think I want to wipe out some of that stuff in 5. 8's going to go to crap. Or again, do I try to get a defend 4? It's ravaging 7 there. Oh, it's super bad. Oh, I might not have to worry with the escalator. we're just really at the mercy of this Blighted Island card. I don't see a way I can avoid that. You know, when I did the escalator last turn, I put it in 8. I'm going to put it in 6 instead. Time passed, so this town healed. We're gonna have blight everywhere. You know, it's really bad. If this does +1 damage in 3, that's going to be 8 damage, and then it will blight and cascade, and that's an auto loss. So there's that. That's fun. I think I have to get a power card. I'm not thrilled with it. Power card. Let's see what happens. Give me an offend 1,000,000. Spur on with words of fire. It's not really going to be helpful. Sunset flow across the land. It does have a moon. 1 fear, 1 damage. You may pay 1 energy to deal additional damage in adjacent land. Confounding mist. Defend 4. Range 1. It almost gets me where I want. It does not have a moon, which is a downgrade, and then scour the land, destroy 3 towns. Again, if it has the durable mechanic, it's actually you're only destroying. You're only doing 6 damage, 2 towns, and all explorers add 1 blight. This power may be fast if I have 3 sky. 2 away from our sacred place. Oh, that's interesting. The fact that I can make that fast, I think I take that one. Adding the blight's not great. But again, the durable mechanic, what you can do is, if you have 3 towns, you could damage all 3 of them too, and then once you add the blight, durable goes away, they all die. I think that's going to make the most sense for the next turn. So we'll have that for next turn. So that leaves me in a place where I need the Pharaoh during this turn. I'm going to play Swallowed by the Wilderness. Well, I still have to add the presence as part of my growth. I'll add this presence. Here. I'll add it there. So when I lose a presence because of the Ravage, I'll still have a presence there. Oh, man. 3 is just going to be the death of me. I mean, if that's a Coastal Lands card, like, it's just game over. I mean, there's just nothing I can do. I'm just not getting... Just didn't get down at the 3. All right, let me go there just so I can maybe do something about 3. So I'm gonna play again, Swallowed by the Lands, by the Wilderness, and I will play. So I want to play. I need at least 1 moon. I will play. Wondering if it makes more sense to play. I don't have. If I had 2 cards that had moon and sky, I could actually unlock level 3 forsake society to chase dreams. Man, Habsburg, the worst. If I play this slow, that might make some sense. And I play Perils of the Deepest Island, and then I could play Swallowed by the Wilderness fast. So that's building a city instead of a town. And I won't generate any fear cards. And I might want a good fear card can really help me out on 7. Man, that last event, adding that town because I didn't have any blight on the board was not good. It was really not good because then I get me to build a city, which is again 2 more towns, and then it gathered a town. You see the power of getting up to that reclaim 1 on this board, man. Yeah, I'll try to set up Swallowed by the Wilderness to be stronger. I won't have 3 card plays next turn. There's nothing I can do about that. Nothing I can do about that. All right, I want to play 2 cards that have moons next turn. So I'm going to play these 2. So yeah, I remembered that I did land. I moved this to here thinking I didn't do that last turn. I did add 1 to 6 last turn because I didn't want to add any on the coast, and then I gathered it in. So I had to put that back on 8. So sorry about that. And then I forgot to take my 2 presents, 2 energy from the presence track. So this and this are both paid for. Yowza. I think that will work. It's gonna be a lot of. I really don't have much of a choice here. That's fine. So I'm going to generate 2 fear from Swallowed by the Wilderness. 1 damage per token, +1 for the Badlands. I'm doing 4 damage. I'm going to wipe out both of these towns. So that's 2 more fear. And that will do. And I'm going to be adding a lot of blight. We'll see what this blight card is, because this could get ugly. Oh, I should have I earn a fear card, right? Event card, what do we got? Terror level 1. After the first successful build action, add 1 explorer to an adjacent land without invaders. Okay. Sure. So after the first, so eager explorers, those suckers, after the first successful build action, and that's just the first one on each board, so it's not every place. Push up to 2 explorers or 1 town from a land with beasts. 2 fear per land with Dahan and cities. So that's obviously 0. I think I pushed this guy here so it doesn't build a city there, and that will do okay for me. That's fine. Fear card, add a strife to a town. Beautiful. I'll add a strife to this town. You'll see how that plays out. Invader actions, they're ravaging 7 here. So that's going to be... Ugh. I had to add that presence there. Yeah, I probably should have added that presence somewhere else so I could cascade, but that's fine. I'll just put blight there and there. So I took 1 from the box, so that this is going to have 1 less on it. Oh, it's still healthy. Well, that's useless because again, I've already put 1 of those 2 there. So still healthy. Strong Earth shatters slowly. Each player adds a strife from this card to a land adjacent to strife. There. And that means that this card is already depleted. So bye-bye still healthy. That is a 2 blight. I will take the option to ignore that. 5 blight per player. Oh, 3 blight per player. Invaders and Dahan at -1 health, minimum 1. When the land takes Dahan on, so it's the all things weakened card, which is, I like it. It's just it adds a lot. So everything has 1 less health. The land takes blight on 1 damage instead of 2, and then when you add blight, it destroys all presence and beasts in that land and 1 presence in an adjacent land. That starts next round, which is good. All right, so we're ravaging in 7, so that adds a blight. Again, that only triggers next round. So this destroys this presence. It only ravaged 2 because of the strife. So that was really helpful. Destroys a Dahan. The remaining Dahan retaliate and wipe out those 2 towns. So that's 2 fear. And we're in terror level 2. We are done with the ravage step. The first build action, I have to add, and again, explore to an adjacent land without invaders. So that's fine. We'll build a town in 5. We'll build a town in 8, and I'll add an explorer to 7 because of eager explorers. So I did that. After the build step, we have to gather a town. I will gather a town from 6, and that way I don't have to gather an extra 1 into 8. 3 blight per player is not a lot. I'm about to add 1. Wow. Okay, and then explore step, exploring into 6, exploring into 2, and obviously I have 5 blight on the board, so the escalation is not an issue. But yeah, I have none of my innates this round. So that's a thing. So basically it's ravaging 7 there. I think I have to reclaim cards again. Oh, just so. I'm not getting presents out quick enough, which is the problem. I think I can make that work though. So I'm going to scour the land. I'm going to 2 away from where I have a sacred place. I have to take care of what's going on 8. So, because I won't have the ability to really deal with that next turn. At all. So I'm going to do destroy 3 towns, which is basically the effect of do 6 damage to towns in this land. So I'm going to target land 8. I'm going to destroy that town. And then I destroy all explorers, and then I add a blight. So even if I had not been able to kill that because of the roll mechanic, once I added the blight, if I only had done 2 damage to it, it would have died. Anyway, so this goes away. Time passes. I have to reclaim my cards. And I think this is my play right now. So I'm going to do Swallowed by the Wilderness, and I'm going to do Gift of the Untamed Wild. No, maybe. No, then I'll do softly back in, ever inward. So I reclaim cards, I get an energy. I did this growth option. I get 2 energy. I get 2 energy for the presence track before I forget. And then as my special element, I'm going to get a moon. So that's 3, that's 4. So I actually have 1 moon from my growth option, 1 moon from the presence track, and then 1 moon from this card. So I have 3 moons. I have 2 sky from the 2 cards, and then I have 1 animal tag from the card. I do not have my plants, so I'm definitely not doing great there. And we are going to, we have unlocked the 3rd level of Forsake Society to chase after dreams. All right, so that's fine. I'm going to do Swab of the Wilderness. I generate 2 fear, and then I'm going to do 4 damage in land number 5. And remember, everything has 1 less health. So starting next turn, this is next turn. So everything has 1 less health. So that 4 damage is going to destroy both. So they're not durable, and they have 1 less health. So they really have 1 health. So both of those towns and 2 of those explorers are dead. The problem is, it takes this. The land takes damage even with that 1 measly explorer, because all things weaken. So that's something I'm really going to need to figure out how to deal with. But I'm still only doing 4 damage here. And that gives me 2 more fear, which is another fear card. So hopefully one of these fear cards will prevent me from losing because of 1 measly explorer. All right, so those are my fast powers. We now go to the event card. Invaders surge inland on each coastal land. On each board, move 1 town, 1 or 2 lands inland. I'll move this town here because there's blight there, and that makes life a lot easier. So it went from 3 to 7, so 1, 2 lands inland. On each land with disease, do 2 damage to invaders. On each board, choose a land with disease. In that land, do 2 damage to invaders and 2 damage to Dahan. I only have 1, so Grim Toll, I only have 1 land with disease. Oh, wait, I lied. I am Blighted Island. So, on each board, add a blight to a land adjacent to cities or towns. Spirits may prevent this on any old boards by destroying 2 presents from each board to be protected. Wow. Well, I only have 2 blight left on the card. The problem is, I'm either destroying 2 presents, or I'm putting a blight on, but then that's going to also make me lose a presence, because I'd have to put it there or there, and if I put it there, I'm losing there, because remember, all things weaken, you lose a presence in an adjacent land. I think I just lose the 2 presents. So I have 1 presence left on the board, which is super exciting. I'm not using that 1 card again anyway, the one that required the Sacred Place. I think that's my only Sacred Place card. Yeah. Okay, so there's that. On each board, choose a land with disease. In that land, do 2 damage to invaders and 2 damage to Dahan. So I can do 2 damage to invaders. Again, everything has 1 less health, so minimum 1. So this 2 damage to that city is enough to kill the city. There are no Dahan there. Enduring Ravage, never land defend 1 per Dahan. Yes, that will do. So we have a defend of 2 in land 5. Okay, so that helps. Fear cards. Each player chooses a land to isolate. I'll isolate land 2 just so and no towns are brought into it. And again, it will also prevent any explorers into the land. So land 2 is isolated. We're tower level 2. Each player chooses a different land to isolate, defend 2 in these lands. Yeah, that's still the right choice. Cool. Each player adds a strife in a different land with at least 2 invaders, and each invader takes 1 damage per strife it has. So I will add a strife. I only have 1 land with his multiple invaders. I'll add a strife to 3, and then that's going to take 1 damage. And since it only has 1 health, because it's not durable, because of the blight, and because all things weaken, that's destroyed. That's a fear. That's another fear card. We immediately resolve that. land 2. Each board, remove 1 town. I'll remove this town because I can gather that town at the 5, which is what I want to do. And that's fine. So we're ravaging, we're defended 2, retaliate, dead. We're building, disease prevents built here. We get a town here. After build, we gather. There's this is isolated, so we can ignore adjacency, so this won't go in there. And there's nothing adjacent to that one. And now we're exploring into coastal lands. So we get an explorer here. We don't explore into isolated lands. We get an explorer here. So land forest, again, still proving to be our biggest problem. Bing and bing. I'm going to... Oh, interesting. I am on the cusp of a Terra level 2 victory. Right? This is... this level 4 Habsburg might be joining the ranks of Russia in that this is a very unusual game. And that it's really hard to kind of show what this spirit does against level 4 Habsburg because it is, the math gets so wonky. Yeah, I'm pretty much gonna get a level, and that all things weaken card is kind of insane as well. So this is a very weird game, but you know, again, that's like why no 2 games are alike to an extent in this game, which is one of the reasons we all love it so freaking much. So let me do this. I will do forsake society to chase after dreams. I'm going to target a land 1 away from where I have presence. I'm going to turn this town into 2 explorers, and I will drag them into land 5. Oh, if I reclaim cards, oh, it's not going to matter. Yeah, we're fine. And then I'm going to do softly beckon ever inward. I'm going to gather a town. I will go in order. So I gather 2 explorers. I'm going to gather this explorer. I'm going to choose to ignore the isolate token to allow adjacency to gather this explorer. And then I can gather 2 towns. There's only 1. And I can gather any 2 beasts. And I can gather 2 Dahan. I might as well just gather those 2 Dahan just for kicks. Just for kicks. And now we go to growth. I'm going to reclaim my cards, get an energy. I'm going to do this, get 2 energy from the presence track. I'm just going to do 1 card play. Bam, it cost me 1. Fast powers, 2 fear, 1 damage per token, so that's 4 damage. All things weakened, this only has 1 health. Ding and ding. And that generates another fear. And that is a level 2 victory in a very weird roundabout way. All right, so people have asked a lot, like, what I'm gonna do when I'm done with all the spirits. The list is getting longer, definitely not shorter. I will definitely want to get another lore on the channel that is not against level 4 Habsburg. I want to get another vengeance on the channel that is not against Russia. I want to do the scenarios. I want to do that double board variant that comes in the Jagged Earth experience. I want to probably get at least 1 2-handed game on here. I know the Reddit community for Spirit Island is really strong. They've been really supportive of my channel, so I'm happy to give them some attention. If you love this game, I definitely recommend that community. It's it's one of the cooler communities that I've seen on Reddit, and they do challenges every month. I might start doing those. I want to do higher levels of the adversaries. I want to go through all the scenarios. The Spirit Island content will not stop. I assure you of that. I love this game more and more and more. It is, Jagged Earth has just brought it to that higher echelon. I don't know where it's going to be in my next ranking. It still might be in 3, but I assure you that gap gets tighter every freaking time I play this game. So that was, again, it was a very, very isolate token. Should I come off? So yeah, how that ended up in a victory, I have no idea. You saw again, it's like the event card, that one event card that added a town there, and then that built a city, which became 2 towns, and that was nuts. Like that was definitely not great. So it's almost like what that did by punishing us. We were helped out a lot by this blight on the card. This blight on the card is a special sort of brutal, but it also can be really helpful. I think it was when I played. I was with Russia. I was against Russia with Fractured Days, and I had that major power where you could just basically pay for damage in a land. Like this card was really instrumental in me winning that game. So there's a lot of things that can happen. In a way, the Still Healthy Island did nothing for me, and in some ways this is the one you want to see, I guess, when you're up against Habsburg, because you don't really mind blight everywhere. But so I guess it just effectively let me survive with only 2 blight left on this card. So that was a thing that happened, but ultimately that was just a really interesting game, and that's what you're going to get with Jagged Earth. This kind of game will not be for everyone, and I totally get that. It even feels a little weird to me, like what just happened, but that's like the story generation that comes from Jagged Earth and how it plays out. It's like, man, all things weakened. Everything got weaker. It was easier to kill Dahan. It was easier to add Blight. Blight was more destructive. But yeah, you definitely don't expect to. If I'm looking at this board, I'm like, or where it was with the city, with the towns and stuff, and I'm like, man, I had 1 presence left. I only got 3 things off my track because I kept finding myself in places where I thought it was the most strategic thing to reclaim cards, because I wanted to get swallowed by the wilderness back in my hand, and I wanted to get softly beckon ever inward back in my hand. And then you're like just kind of cycling that. Like this is not a recipe. This is not the game to watch if you're like, I want to learn how to win Spirit Island. Don't do this at home. This was just situation dictated that this was the right move, and it worked out for a victory that's very cool, and I'm really happy with it. But I also feel like, man, I want to do the Spirit more justice. So let's get me through Shroud. Let's get through Many Minds. Well, actually, Many Minds, at this point, you've already seen the Many Minds live playthroughs. Hopefully that went well. Let me get through Shroud. Let me get through Volcano. And we'll come back to Lore before too long. He will beckon me back into his presence again, I am sure. I am mesmerized by his frog-toad beauty that he just exudes from every pore of his beautiful soul. That is that. I will wax poetic on my own time and save you any more of that nonsense on this video. But as always, really appreciate the support. Love the spirit on the community that's wrapped around this game. That these videos get more and more views. And I hope that just means that more and more people are stumbling into this game. More and more people have finally gotten their Jagged Earths, and more people are just delving into the richness that is here. It's a great one. It is so good. And that is it. So until next time, you can go on my Patreon page. The link is down below. You can see a schedule I post at the beginning of every month with an upcoming calendar of events that you will want to look out for. And thanks again for joining. Until next time, happy gaming.